They don't have any front court scoring. Kayvon Looney's their only true big, and he is a non-scoring threat. So they need to acquire somebody, a big that at least is a scoring threat. Now, Karl Anthony Towns will be on the market. He's a little squirrely, can be immature, can disappear. Now, you may just roll your eyes at Karl Anthony Towns, but let me give you three other players for the Timberwolves. Kevin Garnett, Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, all left and felt like they got better. Maybe it's the T-Wolves. Steph, Clay, and Draymond are all coming back. Steph's still elite. Draymond, what he does, still elite. Now, I know you don't like Klay Thompson, and I would acknowledge he better give them a team-friendly deal. But he did lead the NBA in made three-pointers, and he shot like 41%. He just had a lousy series against the Lakers. They would like to keep Andrew Wiggins, good defender, and they want to get a full season out of him. And I think they'd like to keep Jordan Poole. He's flaky, but when Steph gets hurt or takes a seat, who's going to score? What they'd like to do is, I think, move Kayvon Looney and some role players and get a big. They're going to have to make big decisions, but Steph, Clay, and Draymond aren't going anywhere. I would consider moving Klay Thompson. That doesn't appear to be in the cards. But the key is, because of this offense, they've known this was a hole, this part of their roster, for 3 years. It's why they drafted James Wiseman. He just wasn't ready. And so what I've been told inside the building, and I think this is understood in the league, whatever they do has to be on Steph Curry's timeline. No silliness, no kids, you're not ready, no 19-year-olds. Kuminga still struggles to get on the floor. Young Moses Moody still struggles to get on the floor. This is a very sophisticated culture. Squirrely guys and kids do not work. So my guess is they're going to go to try get somebody already in the league that's an adult that is somewhat of a scoring threat inside. Too much of their scoring is all loaded into the backcourt. They could move a Dante DiVincenzo. They could move again a Gary Payton. They could move Jordan Poole. They got a lot of options moving players in the backcourt. But they got to get a big who can score. At least a threat to score. It doesn't have to be 25 a night. It could be 17. It's got to be something. Steve Kerr talked about his season and the Warriors' season ending.
We didn't feel like a championship team all year, but we had the guts and the fortitude to still believe. To be fair, I think this team probably, ultimately maxed out. I think, we were barely in the playoff picture for most of the year. This is not a championship team.
They're not. They're not. By the way, when you go back and look at the greatest teams ever, like Jordan's teams didn't get a ton of scoring from Bill Cartwright or Will Perdue or at times Luke Longley, but they got enough, and they also had incredible size. This is a very tiny team. So if you're a small team, it's fine. But when you're a small team with zero scoring threat on the interior, you become very dependent on a 35-year-old Steph Curry. Dude needs more help. So Doc Rivers lost again in a big game. He's now 6-10 all-time in Game 7s, although if you listen to the critics, you'd think he was 0-16. He is on a 9-game losing streak to clinch a conference finals berth. And it ain't great. But I do think, whereas Doc Rivers worked in this league 10 years ago as a head coach, maybe 7 or 8 years, he's known as a culture coach. And the game with analytics is becoming much more about in-game adjustments and in-series adjustments. He's got a Joe Torre quality. He can get the egos and the adults and the squabbles right. He did that with the Clippers. They were dysfunctional. He made them relevant. Never great, but relevant. When he got to Philadelphia, the Ben Simmons mess, he cleaned it up. People started getting along, but they've never been great. I just think Doc's not a rigid guy. He's a culture guy, and that's what he leans into. Darvin Ham, you saw him making tweaks throughout the series. That's now the NBA. Things change. We've seen it in the NFL. Defensive coaches, even legends, Bill Belichick, are tone deaf, can't draft skilled people. This is the slowest NFL team offensively, and they drafted guards and kickers. They don't get it. The culture's changed. And Belichick's a legend. Greg Popovich, a legend. Struggled to embrace the three ball. Still does. Bobby Knight, a legend. Wouldn't embrace one and done. Nothing punctures brilliance among legends like rigidity, like the inability to evolve. I'm not saying Doc Rivers is Belichick. I'm not saying he's Popovich or Bobby Knight. What I'm saying, he's an old school coach in a new school world where Spoelstra, we saw it with Darvin Ham, Steve Kerr. Budenholzer, by the way, came from a big system like San Antonio. He struggled to tweak in game. So sometimes guys are old school in every industry. They're just old school. Even in an industry that is very fluid and young and progressive, like tech. Google buys YouTube. YouTube becomes YouTube TV. Then they buy the NFL package, right? Whereas Yahoo led the world. #1 internet provider. What's Yahoo today? Even in tech, there are people that evolve, people that don't, people that get stuck in the sand, people that get embedded the way it used to be or the former business. It's hard. It's hard to constantly evolve and get the right timing and the right pieces. But I feel like Doc's not a bad coach. He's an old school coach in a new school game. The NBA, and you're seeing it. It is so now three-ball reliant, speed and spacing. And I just feel like Doc's in his 60s. He'd be a great TV analyst. He made the Clippers relevant, cleaned them up. He made the Sixers relevant, cleaned them up. But in neither case did you feel like you were getting the adjustments needed in 2023 NBA. And Doc Rivers talked about failing badly in Game 7.
I'm disappointed. I thought we had the right group. I really did. And I knew, it's funny. I look out and I you talk about keeping receipts sometimes, you know what I mean? I don't think a person in this room picked the Sixers, not one. But we did. And we chose to believe that we could win anyway. And we almost pulled it off.
By the way, Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks, what is he known as? A big culture guy. Knick fans are asking this morning, do we have the right coach? He's created a relentless, tough, formidable Knicks culture. Can we get to the next level? Again, Doc Rivers got rid of the Ben Simmons thing. Embiid, Harden, Maxey, Harris seemed to get along. Dwayne Casey in Toronto was this. Kind of cleaned up the culture. Then they brought in Nick Nurse to get a title. Like, they're just different styles of coaches. And so some guys are heavy into culture. By the way, I'm not saying Kerr and Spoelstra aren't good at that. I'm not saying Darvin Ham's not good at that. But you can watch Darvin Ham tweak. I mean, literally tweak half to half, quarter to quarter. You could watch Spoelstra, Steve Kerr do it. And I can still like Doc Rivers. I really do like him. But he feels a little bit like Tibbs. Like, you got a culture guy, can clean it up. But has he leaned too far into culture, not enough into pivoting, in-game adjustments? I don't know. There's an argument to be made. Clearly this morning, J-Mac's already got him fired and working at a TV network. So you're ready to let him go.
Listen, Daryl Morey's got a lot of decisions in Philadelphia. There's a lot happening there. And again, I don't know that you can totally blame Embiid for everything that happened there. As they're constructed, Colin, do you think this team is ever going to get by Boston?
No.
Get by a Giannis-led team? Miami's Heat culture, the Knicks, the Cavs.
There's a lot, though, I like about Philadelphia. I said this. Everybody kept telling me, oh, you got to trust it. And I'm like, I can love watching you and not trust you. It's date, not marriage. It's a great relationship. Don't trust it long term. That's Philadelphia. I think they're a blast to watch. The egos, the alpha, the big shots. But when I watch them, it's time to move off Harden. Stop telling me he's going to be dependable. Like, he's a role player with fashion.
Do you have his numbers in front of you for what he did in the 4 losses?
No.
21% shooting in 4 losses. But he did win 2 games for you straight up. Embiid didn't win 1 game in that series for them. Harden had over 40 points and the game-winning 3 in 2 games.
I know.